Porpoise Pod back at it. So Solana, the man who's probably had the most interesting training camp this entire time has been Mike Gesicki. You know, we talked about this after the second preseason game and him having those quotes about him learning a new position. I got to be honest, you know, he had this post on social media this week, and he does this thing with the zip face emoji. So he had like 3 of those, and I think it was like something like keep on going or something positive, I guess. He's like staring off into Hard Rock. And Mike Gesicki's had a hell of a week of practice. Definitely, I would say his best week of practice, his most explosive week of practice. We talked about earlier the one-handed grab that he had. If you guys haven't seen that on social media, that was absolutely sick. But he also had one on Tuesday where he got a deep ball from Tua. So I would say like you got to see like all this attention on Tua's new toys and new weapons. Tua kind of feeding Big Mike a little bit and letting him know like, hey, I still got you. I thought it was I think it's a good thing to see that Gesicki through all of this stuff has been was still able to go out there and perform. And that, of course, also with probably the first trade rumors that have really rumbled this week with him, even though there's been conflicting reports on that.
Yeah, there has been. But it's interesting because Mike Gesicki was one of these guys, you franchise tag him, and we knew coming in there would be this sort of question mark surrounding him. How's he going to fit into the offense? But I think we all kind of just assume they'll figure it out. They'll make it work. He's too good of a pass catcher. He's too important of a weapon. Him and Tua have that chemistry. But Tobin, we talked about it that first week. Man, it's almost like Mike Gesicki wasn't there at practice. Those first like couple days of training camp, that first joint practice with Tampa Bay, it's almost like he wasn't there. It was a point of contention. Why is nobody talking about Mike Gesicki, right? It's a word or a name you haven't heard. And then, you know, fast forward a week later and he's playing in the third quarter of the second preseason game.
Right.
So I don't think anybody should be shocked, by the way, that Mike Gesicki's balling out in practice. But it comes at a time where it's huge for him because if the Dolphins do decide not to trade him, man, like he's going to struggle this year, Tobin, right? Like, can we say that he's going to struggle this year?
I think it's a possibility. Look, sometimes, you know, you get these guys and they just don't don't jive with the coach. Like it doesn't go well. Like we saw this with Minkah Fitzpatrick, we saw Brian Flores, we saw this with Jarvis Landry and Adam Gase. Like for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to click. But with Mike Gesicki, we know how important that position is to Mike McDaniel. But
is it that he's not jiving? Like I don't think it's that he's not jiving with the coach. Like I don't think there's an issue in terms of their relationship. I think it's as simple as Mike McDaniel needs him to block. And,
yes.
And Mike Gesicki cannot block. Like
right.
There's going to be plays drawn up for Mike Gesicki if he's still on the team throughout the season where he's going to be able to make a play, break a tackle, you know, get a touchdown. Like there's going to be situations where it'll call for that. But the majority of his downs, the majority of his snaps will require him to pass block for Tua or to run block for this run scheme. And it's at this point now, we can say it, man. Like a lot of people are trying to dance around it. He cannot block. He's not good at the art of blocking. And I don't think he can learn it in 6 months.
I don't either. It's just not his bag. But like if he can get to a point where it's even respectable, then you have yourself just a much better weapon and somebody that you will want to invest in long term. Because look, this is going to be a short marriage if it doesn't get fixed this year. That's for sure. This was interesting though. So he was asked about the reports today, Mike McDaniel, about Mike Gesicki, and he said, quote, during training camp, during offseason, GMs have a lot of work to do. When people use loose verbiage like that, the report is misleading because you should probably have a lot of names on the report. Because I believe the term was exploring trade talks with Mike Gesicki. But he also says that he's focused on coaching Mike. Mike focused on getting better. He had a great week of practice this week, which tells you a lot about the individual. So that could be 2 things. He can be genuine, which we have said seems like Mike McDaniel is, or that's an old trade value answer. People know it's not perfect. So all of a sudden you're like, I like coaching Mike. And so now that that's out in the atmosphere, people are like, oh, you can't fleece the Dolphins.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm not, I tend to lean towards I like to believe Mike McDaniel
Mm-hmm.
because Mike Gesicki has had a good week of practice. We've seen good things from Mike Gesicki. But it's the NFL. They lie.
Yeah.
And so even though he's adorable and he's got cool glasses, I don't think Mike McDaniel's above lying. And I think that was just that's a thing you just got to keep your eye on. Don't necessarily say that that's done yet just because Mike McDaniel's like, oh, I love coaching him. He's the best. So I don't know.
Well, they didn't deny. They didn't deny any.
Didn't deny it.
They didn't deny it. I think that's important to point out. Like, he didn't come out and say, no, we're committed to Mike long. No.
I mean, look, they're very obviously not committed to him long term because they didn't even have one trade. They didn't have one contract discussion with him.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely apparent that they're not convinced long term that he's a complete player, which he's not yet. So interesting thing to keep an eye on.
If the Dolphins can, ship out Mike Gesicki and bring back a cornerback, an experienced cornerback, doesn't have to be anybody great, but just somebody who can be your third cornerback or your fourth cornerback, like, isn't that something you have to consider?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. And especially he's been banged up this week, but I think, Tanner Connor's flashed a little bit for players. Yeah. Hunter Long's playing much better. I think that he's starting to look a little bit improved and has a lot of those Gesicki-esque qualities. I don't think he's as explosive, but they drafted him fairly high. Yeah. So I would imagine they want to know what he's going to be able to do in his future too, and do it at a much cheaper rate. I don't know. I don't think the story's going away anytime soon, but I think that Mike, to his credit, definitely did seemingly respond very well to what I would say has probably been his most challenging week as a Miami Dolphin.
Yeah.
Two more things of note. One, on the health front, as I phlegm up, Andrew Von Ginkel, he had to have his appendix removed. It did not burst like Joe Burros did, but he's out nonetheless. But apparently the reports are week 2 at the latest, but could even be ready for week 1. So Dolphins linebacker Andrew Von Ginkel, keep an eye on that. He's got great hair. But looking ahead, phenomenal hair. But looking ahead to, I'm sorry, I didn't give it the respect.
How dare you? How dare you?
But finally, Salah, before we get out of here, final preseason game. Give me a couple names you think this is the most important week for. Like, who do you go into this game and say, either it could be position, it could be a couple players, one player. Just who do you think needs this week the most as far as looking productive? Because it can be kind of a whatever week, the last preseason game.
Well, selfishly, I want 4 quarters of Skylar Thompson so I can continue to push my Skylar Thompson agenda.
You love him.
That's from a total selfish standpoint. I'm looking at a guy like Cameron Good, who the Dolphins drafted. They do need a little bit of linebacker depth as well. I think he's going to make the roster, but I do want to see a little bit more from him. Tanner Scott didn't get a chance to play in the second preseason game, I believe, right? He was injured. They held him out.
I think he's been he had a big, I don't think he's going to either because he had a big thing on his leg. I think he's honestly had an explosive start. He's undrafted. I don't think that many people know about him. He's probably headed towards the practice squad if I had to guess.
Really?
I mean, maybe he'll just get cut. I don't know. But I feel like he impressed, but he hasn't been healthy. So that feels to me like practice squad's written on him.
And this may be the dumbest statement said yet on the Porpoise pod, but how about Noah Igbinoghene? Show me something, dude.
Why are you doing this to yourself?
Just show me something. One good play. Can we start there? One good play. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. One. And then we'll move on. But the Dolphins aren't going to cut him. He's going to be on the roster. And he hasn't shown you a single flash that he has improved his game yet. Not one in actual game action.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I don't know. Look, this has happened before. This has happened with, it's not his fault where he was drafted, but we've seen this in the past. Vernon Golston or, Taco Charlton, like these first round he'll get picked up. I'm sure like 9 teams will pick up Noah Igbinoghene before they realize, hey, the guy sucks. He's got he looks amazing in a uniform. He's fast as hell. Can't play football. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know. But why would we have faith this is going to get turned around? He has been picked on every which way. Fully was expecting when, by the way, when AJ Brown was demanding that video, I was not expecting it to be against Xavier Howard. I was fully expecting it to be Noah Igbinoghene, so we could mock him for that.
Yeah, just keep getting
because if that was the case, if AJ Brown was like, "Oh, you show your video," and it was Noah Igbinoghene, we would all be laughing our asses off. Like,
oh my god, it would have been so perfect. It almost would have been like too perfect to be scripted.
It would have been two wins.
What about Tobin? What about like a guy like Keon Crossan?
Yep.
He's probably gonna make the team, I think, but I don't know for sure. Trent Sherfield on the other side of the football. Like, are the Dolphins going to keep 6 wide receivers?
Well, the wide receiver was where I was going to go, because I was going to say, like, between Preston Williams, I don't know if you saw Lynn Bowden again. He's doing his busy tweeting this week. Although he gave a little shout out to Tyreek Hill. That was an interesting thing that he put out there.
Yeah.
But those are like the two guys I'm interested in, because I feel like we know that they're not that pleased with their situation. He said to Cheetah, "People really don't know how good of a dude you are outside of football. You my dog." And Cheetah responded to that for Limbo and says, "Thanks, brother. I don't mind being the bad guy." Little devil emoji, So two peas in a pod there. They love each other. But I don't know. I think with Lynn Bowden and Preston Williams, like, we know Lynn had that great first preseason game. Preston, I don't think it's been that impressive. And then I think, like, between the moves they've made, Ezukama, Braylon Sanders, Lynn Bowden, I would say Preston Williams has probably had the least impressive wide receiver camp, and he's made a stink. So I can't imagine he's going to have a future with the Dolphins.
The second they held him out in that first preseason game and then threw his ass to return punts, I knew he was donezo. I knew that to me was a total telltale sign of him being on the old chopping block.
Yep.
By the way, really quickly, Tyreek Hill, Lynn Bowden using Tyreek Hill to try to make the roster. I mean, it's a total change of approach there, where first you're kind of hating on the Dolphins via likes with Preston Williams. Now, hey, Cheetah, you're my guy. You're such a good guy.
It's not a bad strategy.
It's not. It's actually a decent strategy by Lynn Bowden. And what do you make of Tyreek? Listen, whatever. All right, he's in Miami. He's embraced Tua. He's embraced McDaniel. Like, there's no criticism I can send Tyreek's way. Absolutely none. What do you make of him, though? Keep rekindling the old Kansas City Chiefs stuff on Twitter. Have you seen this stuff where somebody would tweet him, like, "Cheetah, we miss you," and then I think his response was, I never switched up. They got rid of me, bro.
Yeah, and he was asked, because, like, somebody put to it was in response to a retweet, and then he goes, okay, so he was retweeting a stat it was like Patrick Mahomes was the most accurate passer last season.
Right.
Somebody said, someone talked to Cheetah for me, and then somebody responded to that, "Tyreek switching still hurts, bro." Mm-hmm. And he responded, "Never switched up. They got rid of me, bro. Deuces emoji. Yeah. So what do I make of it? Look, I'm a card-carrying member of Team Petty. I don't think I believe you started the LeBron is tired chant.
Mm-hmm.
We understand this. Yeah. I know exactly what he's doing. Like, he is out here to show that he was a very important piece of a former championship team. And I also do think that, they gave Patrick Mahomes a ton of money. They decided he wasn't worth that. They could just do it with anybody. So, yeah, of course he's going to have a little bit of Team Petty in him.
Okay. I mean, if you look up at my wall here, this is my Heat wall. I have a Dolphins wall over there. You won't see number 6 anywhere up here. So, you know what? I can respect Cheetah for his devoted Team Petty case. I can respect that.
Well, listen, we're not petty towards you as an audience. You guys have been great to us so far. And we'll have a full recap of the preseason finale as we start counting down towards the regular season. Solana, another fine edition of the Porpoise Pod, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, enough of these Saturday night games, Tobin. Let's get some real football.